When I died in the drafty woodshed of the Liu family, firecrackers were being set off outside the window to celebrate Liu Yuanzhou's promotion. That year I was 42. 20 years of toil and exhaustion had only resulted in him living in the city with his boss's daughter and her 2 children. It wasn't until my dying breath that my nearly 70-year-old mother-in-law patted my hand and gave a feigned sigh. Ruiyue. Yuanzhou is also thinking about his future. The Gu family can save her from taking 30 years of detours. So please do him a favor and grant his wish. To grant a wish, I took care of the Liu family, 13 members in total, supported my younger brother's education, and raised money for my younger sister's betrothal, only to end up with a ridiculous piece of paper. A cold draft seeped through the crack in the woodshed door. I huddled in my tattered cotton quilt, listening to the crackling of firecrackers outside, feeling my life slowly slipping away with each explosion. No one came to see me. No one cared about me. The home I had nurtured with 20 years of my youth and sweat. At this moment, as I lay dying, not a single person was willing to step into this woodshed. Mom, just sign it. The eldest son, Liu Zhengwo, said impatiently from outside the door. Dad said that as long as you sign the divorce agreement, he won't pursue the money you secretly sent back to your parents' home before. I didn't have the strength to answer. The money I secretly sent back to my mother's home was money I saved from my work points and later from working in a factory, which I sent to my bedridden mother. In the eyes of the Liu family, it was stealing. Ruiyue, don't blame Yuanzhou. Her mother-in-law's voice rang out again, as if she were talking to a stranger through the thin door panel. You can't give birth to a son, but our Liu family line cannot end. The Gu family's daughter is young and can have children. Just consider it an act of kindness and help them achieve their goal. Can't I have a son? I gave birth to a son and a daughter. My son is from the Liu family, and so is my daughter. But the day my daughter was born, my mother-in-law glanced at her and said, "She's a waste of money." Without even putting a diaper on her, I tore off my own cotton-padded coat, wrapped my daughter up, and held her in my arms to keep her warm all night. In those years, I would get up before dawn every day to cook, do laundry, feed the pigs, and work in the fields for my family of 13. In winter, my hands would crack from the cold, and blood would seep out. I still had to wash diapers in ice water. My mother-in-law said I was a husband killer, and wouldn't let me eat at the table. I ate squatting by the stove for 20 years. And Liu Yuanzhou, he came back once or twice a year, dressed in his crisp military uniform, and told the villagers, "My wife is virtuous and manages the household very well." The villagers envied me, saying I married a good man. Only I knew that he sent most of his meager allowance to his cousin. In the city, the livelihood of our family of 13 depended entirely on my work points and the physical labor I later did carrying bricks at the brick factory. Now, they want me to sign the divorce papers. Mother, please don't be stubborn. Liu Xiaomei's voice rang out, trembling with tears. Father said that as long as you sign, he won't kick you out and will let you continue living in the woodshed. She continued to live in the woodshed, continued to be their free nanny, and continued to watch him and another woman, a happy family of 3. I laughed, and tears streamed down my face. I won't sign. I used the last of my strength, my voice barely a whisper. I'd rather die than sign. There was a moment of silence outside the door, followed by the mother-in-law's cold laugh. Then you can just die here. Anyway, you have no one left in your family. Just throw you in a mass grave and nobody will know. Nobody knows. I closed my eyes and listened to the firecrackers outside the window gradually fade away. I felt my body getting lighter and lighter, like a withered leaf being blown by the wind and drifting into the endless darkness. If there is an afterlife, I, Zhou Ruiyue, will never again set foot in the Liu family. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't greeted by the silence before my death, but by the deafening sound of Swana horns. I sat up abruptly, looking at the young, rosy face in the bronze mirror, a face yet to be worn smooth by life. Zhou Ruiyue in the mirror was 20 years old, with porcelain white skin and eyes that held a clear brightness untouched by the dust of the world. I looked down at my hands, slender fingers, no chilblains, no cracks, and smooth, clean nails. These were the hands of a 20-year-old, hands that hadn't washed that family's clothes for 20 years, hadn't been soaked in icy water in winter, and hadn't been rubbed raw by the sharp edges of bricks. Ruiyue. Hurry up. The Liu family's marriage proposal team is already at the gate. My mother pushed open the door, her face beaming, holding a mahogany comb in her hand. Her hair was still black, her back was still straight, and her eyes no longer held the deathly grayness that life would later crush them. Lu Yuanzhou, you're back in military uniform. You really are the son-in-law of an officer from the village. You're really living the dream. My palms were ice cold, and I clenched them tightly. The piercing pain made me realize I was really back. We returned to that early autumn of 1983, to the day Lu Yuanzhou stepped into the Zhou family's gate with that fatal dowry. Mother, don't rush to make that comb. I pressed my mother's hand, my voice so calm that even I felt like a stranger. I'll go out and take a look first. I pushed away the red ribbon my mother handed me and walked straight to the gate. Outside the gate, Lu Yuanzhou stood upright in the center of the courtyard. One had to admit, the 22-year-old Lu Yuanzhou was indeed handsome, his military uniform was impeccably tailored, and his brows carried a self-assured air of superiority. Behind him followed his wife, and a group of Lu family relatives who were staring at my yard like hungry wolves. Ruiyue, you're out. When Lu Yuanzhou saw me, a triumphant smile played on his lips. He pulled a red envelope from his pocket and handed it to me. This is a small token of my appreciation. 500 yuan as a bride price. This is unprecedented in our commune. Once you join the army, I will work hard to get promoted and will never let you suffer any injustice. The villagers who had gathered around exclaimed in surprise. 500 yuan. The Lu family has struck it rich. Old Mrs. Lu stood to the side, her face crinkled with laughter, and shouted loudly, "That's because our Yuanzhou only has Ruiyue in his heart." He came back and immediately came to the Zhou family to set a date. Ruiyue, accept it. From now on, we're family. You're going to be a military wife. Looking at that thick stack of banknotes, I felt not gratitude, but nausea. In my past life, I was blinded by the 500 yuan and the title of military wife. I didn't know that the money was borrowed from the Gu family, nor did I know that this title was a shackle around my neck for 20 years. I didn't take the money. Instead, I took a step back and looked at him coldly. Lu Yuanzhou, I won't go through with this marriage. The noisy courtyard fell silent instantly. The mahogany comb in my mother's hand fell to the ground and broke in two. Ruiyue, what nonsense are you talking about? Lu Yuanzhou's smile froze on his face, and a hint of impatience flashed in his eyes, but he quickly covered it up. Ruiyue, are you angry because I came back too late? There are rules in the army. I came back this time specifically to hold the wedding. It's not because of that. I looked at him calmly, my voice clear so that everyone present could hear me. Lu Yuanzhou, you say you only have me in your heart. So what's the deal with your cousin in the city? And this 500 yuan dowry? Did you save it up from your monthly allowance? Or did you get it from somewhere else in advance? Lu Yuanzhou's face turned pale instantly. He didn't expect me to mention my cousin and the source of the money. She wasn't actually married to Gu Manting yet, but their private affair had already brought her considerable benefits. This 500 yuan was a consolation payment from the Gu family to get her to return to her hometown and settle things cleanly. You, who told you this nonsense? Old Mrs. Lu was furious. She jumped out and pointed at my nose, yelling, "Zhou Ruiyue, don't push your luck. Yuan Zhou is a military officer. It's a blessing from your ancestors that he's willing to marry you. And you're making up stories about his reputation, aren't you? Making a fuss." I sneered, turning around to take out a small ledger from the house. It was a record my father kept before he died. Lu Yuanzhou, 3 years ago you were admitted to military academy but didn't have the money to pay the tuition and fees. My father took 50 yuan from his savings for his funeral. 2 years ago your father was sick, and my mother took care of him at his bedside, spending 30 yuan on medicine. Our village chief knows all about these things. I took a step closer, looking into her evasive eyes. You brought 500 yuan today to propose marriage. I think you just want to pay off your debts and find a free nanny while you're at it. Right. You can take care of your 13-member family yourself. I, Zhou Ruiyue, am not going to serve you anymore. Ruiyue, you've misunderstood. Lu Yuanzhou tried to reach out and pull me, but I dodged him by turning to the side. The engagement is null and void. In front of the whole village, I shoved the red envelope she handed me away. The stack of money scattered on the yellow earth resembled the pitiful dignity he had bestowed upon me in a past life. Lu Yuanzhou, take your money and your men and get out of the Zhou family. I slammed the vermilion gate shut with a loud bang, shutting out all that greed, hypocrisy, and scheming. The shouts and curses outside the door did not stop just because the vermilion gate was tightly closed. On the contrary, they intensified. Zhou Ruiyue, open the door for me. Explain yourself clearly today. What cousin? What loan? You're trying to smear the military. You're ruining Yuanzhou's future. Old Mrs. Lu pounded on the door, her shrill voice threatening to shatter the midday tranquility. My mother turned pale with fright, rubbing her hands as she paced around the yard. Ruiyue, are you possessed? That's 500 yuan. Yuanzhou is an officer now. We can't afford to offend him. If word gets out that you broke off your engagement, who will dare to marry you in the future? I calmly looked at my mother, walked over and took her rough and trembling hand. These hands, in my past life, had been frozen and festered from washing clothes in the winter for those ungrateful bastards from the Lu family. Mother, do you believe me? I looked directly into her eyes. Lu Yuanzhou came back to propose marriage this time not because he is sentimental, but because he needs a free long-term worker in his hometown to protect his reputation and take care of his large family. He gave us 500 yuan to buy off the favors we had done for him in the past, so that he can have a clear conscience when he becomes successful in the city. My mother was stunned, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. She couldn't comprehend this profound calculation. In her eyes, the military uniform meant protection. I don't have time to explain in detail. Lu Yuanzhou is the kind of person who cares most about his reputation. The reason he's not leaving now is because if he goes back with the stigma of being rejected in the engagement, his promotion application will be scrapped. I turned and went into the inner room, where I found my father's old work points book. My father was the production team's accountant before he passed away, and he kept the accounts very clear. Tucked inside was a yellowed IOU. It was written by Lu Yuanzhou's mother, Wang, 3 years ago before he went to military school. With her fingerprint on it, I took the ledger and reopened the door. The villagers outside hadn't dispersed yet, all craning their necks to watch the spectacle. Lu Yuanzhou stood in the middle of the crowd, his face ashen. When he saw me come out, a flash of ruthlessness crossed his eyes, but his tone remained restrained. Ruiyue, there are some things you can't say carelessly. I'm away from home most of the year, and if you hear any rumors, I can explain. But this marriage was arranged by both families long ago, and you can't just do whatever you want, whether it's nonsense or not. Let's go to the brigade headquarters and talk about it. I raised the ledger in my hand. Lu Yuanzhou, since you've brought up the engagement, let's first settle the debts behind it. 3 years ago, your family was struggling to make ends meet, and your mother borrowed 50 yuan and 100 jin of grain from my family with this IOU, saying she would pay it back double when you became successful. 2 years ago, your younger brother Lu Lauer got married, and when he didn't have enough money, he took 30 yuan from my family. Over the years, my father passed away, and my mother's health has deteriorated. Has your Lu family ever repaid a single penny? Old Mrs. Lu's face stiffened, and she looked away as she cried out, That was mutual assistance between in-laws. How could it be called a loan, since the debt hasn't been settled? We're not in-laws. I interrupted her coldly. The whole village is here now, including the brigade secretary. Lu Yuanzhou, you're an official. You should be selfless. Are you going to pay it back now? Or wait until I write to your unit and ask your superior to help you calculate it? Lu Yuanzhou's pupils contracted sharply. He knew all too well the weight of the words. Military commander. We still have. Lu Yuanzhou practically forced out these words through clenched teeth. He saw my resolve. That look wasn't a tantrum, but a coldness that saw right through him. This gave him an unprecedented sense of crisis. He reached for the red envelope on the ground, but I beat him to it. Of this 500 yuan, I'll take 80 yuan as principal, plus the interest and food rations from the past 3 years, totaling 120 yuan. You can keep the rest. I counted out the money from the red envelope in front of everyone, and threw the rest directly into Lu Yuanzhou's arms. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. You've repaid the Shin family's kindness, but don't even think about mentioning marriage again. Zhou Ruiyue, do you really think you can live a good life without me? Lu Yuanzhou lowered his voice and leaned closer to me, his tone full of threat. In this remote and impoverished place, if you ruin my reputation, you'll never be able to recover for the rest of your life. Looking at his hypocritical face, I suddenly laughed. There was no grief or anger in that laugh, only the relief of surviving a disaster. Lu Yuanzhou, you should worry about yourself first. It's not easy to get past Deputy Director Gu's family in the city. If you don't clean up the mess in your hometown, be careful, Gu Manting will make you regret it. Upon hearing the name, Gu Manting, Lu Yuanzhou was struck dumb, nearly dropping the money in his hand. He couldn't believe that a village girl who had never traveled far from home could know that woman's name. What do you know? Her voice trembled, and fear appeared in her eyes for the first time. I didn't answer. I just gave him one last cold look. At that moment, the loudspeaker at the village entrance was blaring the uplifting melody of "On the Hopeful Fields," heralding the beginning of a great era. I went into the courtyard and closed the door again. Behind me were old lady Lu's unwilling wailing and Lu Yuanzhou's deathly silence. In the courtyard, my mother sat on a small stool, staring blankly at the 120 yuan in my hand. Ruiyue, what are we going to do now? I took a deep breath, savoring the unique earthy fragrance of the early 1980s, and felt a sense of peace I had never felt before. Mother, let's cultivate those 3 acres of our private plot well, and turn the back room that father left behind into a tailor shop. The world is changing. Even without men, we can still live a prosperous life. I know this is just the first step in my counterattack. Once Lu Yuanzhou, that venomous snake, recovers, he will definitely find a way to retaliate. But I also know that his position is not yet secure, and he is more afraid of scandal than anyone else. And the bargaining chips I hold are far more than just this one name. In his past life, he rose to prominence in the city by intercepting a quota allocated to Zhou Tingsheng from his village. That official letter that changed his fate should now be lying on the brigade secretary's desk. And that letter was originally addressed to me. But Lu Yuanzhou intercepted it and replaced it with his own name. Thinking of this, a cold glint flashed in my eyes. Lu Yuanzhou, this is also your ladder to success. I will break it with my own hands. In the end, Lu Yuanzhou left Zhoujia village with the remaining 380 yuan. Looking dejected, although old Mrs. Lu cursed and swore the whole way. She didn't dare to come back and cause trouble because of Lu Yuanzhou's dark, almost dripping face. But I know this is just the calm before the storm. The next morning, before my mother even got up, I changed into a neat blue work uniform and headed straight for the brigade headquarters. In the early 1980s, rural brigade headquarters were always filled with the smell of cheap tobacco and old newspapers. The brigade secretary, Zhou Defa, was drinking water from an enamel mug. Seeing me enter, he adjusted his glasses with some surprise. Ruiyue, after all that commotion yesterday, what brings you here today? Uncle Zhou, I've come to ask about something. I didn't beat around the bush, pulled up a low stool and sat down, my voice very low. I heard that our commune has a quota for further training at a textile factory in the city this year, and they say it's for young people from our village who have performed well. Zhou Defa paused slightly in his grip on the jar, his eyes flickering. This? Who told you this? There is indeed one quota, but it's reserved for demobilized soldiers or military dependents. Our village is still discussing it. I sneered inwardly. That's how it was in my past life. Lu Yuanzhou pulled strings and used my file to give the spot to his cousin, Gu Manting in the city, who then used it to settle down there. Uncle Zhou, I am the daughter of the Shin family. You know best how much my father did for the village when he was alive. I looked into his eyes, my tone sincere, yet carrying an undeniable pressure. I heard that the spot was originally meant for me, specially approved by the county because of my father, supposedly for an outstanding member of the Communist Youth League. But yesterday, when Lu Yuanzhou proposed, his wife got drunk and boasted that the spot already belonged to their Lu family. I just want to ask, when did this public spot become part of the bride price? Zhou Defa broke out in a cold sweat. He had indeed accepted 2 bottles of good wine from Lu Yuanzhou and promised to put the matter on hold until Lu Yuanzhou got married. He would then register the marriage under the name of military dependent Zhou Ruiyue, and Lu Yuanzhou would then arrange for Gu Manting to take her place. This is nonsense. Zhou Defa chuckled dryly, avoiding my gaze. Ruiyue. She's a student at the textile factory. She needs to have a basic education and know how to sew. I interrupted him, pulling a delicately embroidered handkerchief from my pocket and handing it to him. I had stayed up all night making it. Uncle Joe, not only can I can do it better than the city folks. Lu Yuanzhou broke off our engagement in front of everyone yesterday. You saw it yourself. If you give the spot that was originally meant for me to the Lu family, and if word gets back to the commune, they'll say you're helping outsiders bully the family of a martyr. Oh dear. Ruiyue, you can't say things like that. Zhou Defa panicked. People back then were most afraid of being labeled, especially with accusations of bullying the families of those who died in the line of duty. After weighing his options carefully, he finally sighed and pulled out an unopened letter from the bottom of his drawer. The envelope was clearly addressed to Comrade Zhou Ruiyue, Xinjia Village Brigade. This is a letter from the county. It just arrived yesterday. I was planning to deliver it to you today. Zhou Defa rubbed his hands awkwardly. I took the letter, my heart pounding, but I remained calm on the surface. Upon opening it, I saw it was indeed a selection invitation from the county's knitting factory. As soon as I stepped out of the brigade headquarters, I bumped into Lu Yuanzhou under the locust tree at the village entrance. He seemed to have been waiting there for a long time, his face terribly gloomy. Zhou Ruiyue, what were you doing at the brigade headquarters just now? He stepped forward and blocked my way, his eyes fixed on the envelope in my hand. Take back what's mine. I shook the envelope, my expression calm. Lu Yuanzhou, this training spot is mine. Your wishful thinking is going to fall through. Lu Yuanzhou's breathing became rapid, the anger born of selfishness making it almost impossible for him to control his expression. You think you can rise to prominence just by going to the city. Zhou Ruiyue, a country bumpkin like you who's never seen the world will only bring shame to the Shin family if you go to a place like that. Give me the letter. If you're angry about yesterday, we can discuss it. As for the Gu family, I can arrange other compensation for you. Other compensation? I asked, as if I'd heard the biggest joke in the world. Lu Yuanzhou, you still don't understand. I'm not negotiating with you. I'm going to watch you lose everything. Every inch you climbed up using my Shin family. I'll make you pay it all back. You. Lu Yuanzhou raised his hand, but stopped abruptly when he saw the villagers approaching from a distance. He lowered his voice, his tone full of resentment. Zhou Ruiyue, you've changed. But remember, the Gu family's power in the city is beyond your imagination. Even if you get the spot, one phone call from me and you won't even be able to get into the factory. We'll see. I brushed past him, not even bothering to give him a second glance. When I got home, I immediately started packing my luggage. My mother looked at me, her eyes full of worry, but even more so with a sense of unfamiliarity regarding my resolute departure. Ruiyue, are you really going to the city? What if Lu Yuanzhou tries something bad? Mom, he's too busy to take care of himself right now, I said calmly as I folded clothes. Lu Yuanzhou just got promoted and he's most afraid of his reputation being ruined. He's keeping Gu manting around in the city, and he wants to marry me when he comes back to his hometown. If these two things he's keeping secret are exposed, he'll be out of a job. Now he not only doesn't dare to stop me, but he also has to beg me not to go to the city to cause trouble. This is my logic. Lu Yuanzhou is a sophisticated egoist, the kind of person most easily manipulated by self-interest. As long as I act more assertive and confident than him, he can only cower in the shadows. The night before I left, I called Zhou Tingsheng over. Zhou Tingsheng was the only person in his previous life who had lent a helping hand to the Shin family when they were in trouble. At that time, he had just returned from military service and was unemployed at home because he had no connections. So he was helping the brigade repair farm tools. Brother Tingsheng, I'm going to the city. I handed him a folded piece of paper. These are the models of some of the small parts and repair tools that are most in short supply in the city. Based on my observations over the past few years, you're skilled. Don't stay stuck in the village. Once I've established myself at the textile factory, bring some of these to the city and come find me. Zhou Tingsheng looked at the note, then at me. A complex emotion flickered across his handsome but silent face. Ruiyue, you seem like a completely different person since you came back this time, he said in a low voice. It's not that the person has changed, it's that we've figured out how to live. I smiled and looked firmly into the darkness in the distance. Brother Tingsheng. Our generation can't spend our whole lives stuck in the mud waiting to die. The next morning, I packed my bags and boarded the bus to the county town. Outside the bus window, Lu Yuanzhou stood on a nearby earthen slope, watching the bus gradually disappear into the distance. I knew that the fear in his heart was growing infinitely larger. As for me, I was facing the first rays of dawn in the 1980s, heading towards the prosperous world that had once buried me, but was now about to make me who I am today. In 1983, the county town was filled with creaking trams running along the dusty streets, and the air was filled with a mixture of coal smoke and the aroma of meat buns from state-run restaurants. I had just put down my luggage in the dormitory of the knitting factory and hadn't even had time to change into my work clothes when the old man in the gatehouse called out to me, "Zhou Ruiyue, there's a man in military uniform outside looking for you. He says he's a relative from your hometown." My heart sank. Lu Yuanzhou was indeed getting restless. He was afraid I would go to the city, and even more afraid that I would settle down here, exposing his carefully woven lies. At the factory gate, Lu Yuanzhou stood under an old locust tree with a dark expression. He wasn't wearing his military uniform, but a faded Zhongshan suit, trying to appear more refined, but the impatience and gloom between his brows were impossible to hide. "Ruiyue, you were too impulsive." Seeing me come out, he strode up to me, his tone carrying a condescending yet heartbroken tone. "You think getting a training opportunity will give you a foothold in the city? The relationships in this factory are complicated. You're just a country girl with no background or connections. You'll suffer sooner or later. Come back with me. I can overlook the opportunity. As long as you promise not to cause trouble again, I'll still marry you." I looked at him and felt nothing but absurdity. How could I have been so blind in my past life? This man's so-called sense of responsibility was entirely built on exploiting me. "Lu Yuanzhou, you came all this way just to spout this nonsense?" I sneered, my gaze passing over his shoulder to a black Hongqi car parked not far away. That was the direction of the county bureau's residential compound, Lu Yuanzhou's ladder to power, where the Gu family lived. "What exactly do you want?" Lu Yuanzhou lowered his voice, his eyes revealing a complex mix of pleading and threat. "Money or a title. If you come back to the village with me now, I'll forego the 120 yuan, and I'll even add another 200. I want you to be utterly disgraced." I uttered these words softly, my tone as calm as if I were discussing the weather. Just then, the door of the black Hongqi car opened. A young woman with wavy hair and wearing a floral dress stepped out. She looked arrogant, with an air of impatience in her eyes. It was Gu Manting. In my past life, she was an unattainable nightmare. In this life, she is merely the fastest knife in my hand. "Yuanzhou, is this the distant cousin you mentioned who's been bothering you back home?" Gu Manting walked up to Lu Yuanzhou in her leather shoes, took her arm, and scrutinized me with a critical eye, as if I were a cheap old garment. Lu Yuanzhou's body stiffened abruptly. He never expected Gu Manting to appear so suddenly. Looking at Lu Yuanzhou's face, which turned deathly pale in an instant, I felt a surge of vengeful pleasure. He told Gu Manting that I was her distant cousin, who was harassing her. Was this the so-called single applicant persona she maintained in the city? Entanglement. I curled the corners of my mouth into an extremely innocent smile. "Comrade, you may have misunderstood. I am not his cousin. I am his creditor." Creditor? Gu Manting was stunned. I pulled out the training invitation letter that I hadn't yet submitted from my pocket, along with the certificate that I had asked Secretary Zhou to reissue at the brigade headquarters, a joint letter from the Lu family denouncing their years of unpaid loans. "Comrade Lu, you mentioned in the village that you found a promising job in the city and wanted to transfer my study spot to your benefactor to pay off the 80 yuan principal and interest your family owed the Shin family. I'm here today to ask this pretty lady, is this the benefactor you mentioned who can save you 30 years of struggle?" "Zhou Ruiyue, shut up." Lu Yuanzhou tried to snatch the letter from my hand like a madman, but I nimbly dodged him. Gu Manting's face instantly turned from red to white, then from white to green. Although she was spoiled, she wasn't stupid. Lu Yuanzhou told her that this training spot was voluntarily given up by her relatives to repay her for the care she received in the army, to save her 30 years of hard work. Gu Manting flung Lu Yuanzhou's hand away, her voice rising 8 octaves. "Lu Yuanzhou, you told me you were an orphan from the countryside. that your parents died, and that this spot was transferred to you by the family of your comrade as a token of gratitude. Now you're telling me you have a creditor from the Shin family and a fiancé you're not yet engaged to. Manting. Let me explain. She's talking nonsense. She's trying to extort money from me. Lu Yuanzhou was covered in sweat and spoke incoherently. Extorting money. Lu Yuanzhou. Here's the evidence signed by the entire village. The dates and purposes of your family's loan are clearly recorded. Your promotion report states family is clean. But if you're trying to pay off your family's debts by fraudulently obtaining a promotion, where is your political awareness? Every word I uttered was piercing to the heart. Every sentence precisely struck Lu Yuanzhou's Achilles heel. Gu Manting was a person who cared a lot about her reputation. Looking at the workers around her, pointing and whispering, she trembled with anger. Lu Yuanzhou, you're really something. You think I'm a fool. My dad was originally planning to recommend you for next month's military skills competition. But now it seems you should go back to your hometown and settle your old scores first. After Gu Manting finished speaking, she opened the car door without looking back and got into the car. The Hongqi car sped away, leaving Lu Yuanzhou standing alone in the wind, dejected and heartbroken. Zhou Ruiyue, you ruined me. You completely ruined me. He turned his head, his eyes fixed on me like a demon. No, Lu Yuanzhou, you ruined yourself. I looked at him coldly. The money is what you owe the Shin family. In this life, I will make you spit it out bit by bit. This is just the beginning. I will personally report to the textile factory for that advanced study spot. As for your grand competition, your path to success, it ends here. I turned and walked into the factory gate, and the figure of Lu Yuanzhou, who was slumped on the ground behind me, grew smaller and smaller. I know the Gu family won't let him off easily. Deceiving a family of such high-ranking officials means he's likely out of military service. But I've already secured my ticket to the future. Inside the factory, machines roared, and rows of brand-new looms exuded the smell of machine oil. Touching the cold metal, my heart surged with excitement. This was life, no blood-sucking relatives, no hypocritical husband, only a career and dignity held firmly in my own hands. That evening, I sent a letter to Zhou Tingsheng in the village. Brother Tingsheng, it's getting windy in the city. Bring your cooking skills and come over. In the spring of 1985, the county's first private garment factory, Yuesheng Garment Factory, was established. Amidst the crackling of firecrackers, I stood at the factory gate, gazing at the sign I had personally designed, a lump forming in my throat. 2 years ago, Lu Yuanzhou was forced to leave the military due to misconduct and deception. To sever ties, the Gu family dealt him a fatal blow, not only costing him his uniform but also ruining his resettlement prospects in the county. It is said that after he returned to the village, facing the 13 hungry vampires of the Lu family, he aged like a 50-year-old man in less than half a year. Meanwhile, old Lady Lu, unable to bear the change in circumstances, cursed in the village every day, and was eventually locked in a dilapidated temple by her sons and daughters-in-law, who were fighting fiercely over the division of the family property. Ruiyue, what are you thinking about? It's time for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Zhou Tingsheng walked up to me without me noticing. He had shed the naivete of a veteran, and his dark gray suit made him appear even more composed and reliable. In the past 2 years, he had led the strong young men in the village to form a transportation team, becoming the strongest support for Yuesheng garments. Thinking back to the past always feels like a nightmare. I smiled and took the scissors. Halfway through the ribbon-cutting ceremony, a commotion suddenly broke out outside the crowd. A man in a tattered Zhongshan suit, reeking of alcohol, tried to force his way in, but was stopped by security guards. I looked closely and my heart sank. It was Lu Yuanzhou. He was no longer the spirited man he once was. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes were bloodshot and murky. The moment he saw me, a surge of frantic jealousy and regret erupted in his lifeless eyes. Zhou Ruiyue, how dare you live so well? He struggled and shouted, his voice hoarse and unpleasant. If you had obediently married me back then, I would be the boss now. You stole my luck. I gestured for the security guard to release him, walked up to him, and calmly looked at the man who had ruined my life. At that moment, I was wearing my most fashionable suit, confident and composed, and that man, he was rotting away in the dirt. Lu Yuanzhou, luck is never stolen, I said calmly. without a trace of emotion in my eyes. What the Shin family owed you back then has already been settled with that 200 yuan. And what you owed the Shin family, you should have paid back in the last 2 years. You think I ruined you? It wasn't your heart, which always wanted to take shortcuts and always wanted to suck the blood of others, that ruined you. No, that's not how it is. That bitch Gu Manting, she clearly promised me. He muttered incoherently. The Gu family has fallen. I casually dropped this news. It was something I'd recently read in the newspaper. Deputy Director Gu was under investigation for embezzlement and bribery, and Gu Manting had been dismissed from her job. Lu Yuanzhou, your so-called ladder to the clouds was made of sand from the very beginning. It will crumble in the wind. Lu Yuanzhou froze, like a piece of withered wood struck by lightning, completely devoid of energy. She looked at me, then at the vibrant factory behind me, and suddenly burst into tears. There might have been regret in those cries, but more than that, there was resentment at losing his dream of wealth and status. I didn't look at him again. I turned around, took Shou Tingsheng's hand, and walked towards the red ribbon. Brother Tingsheng, let's begin. As the red ribbon broke, enthusiastic applause drowned out Lu Yuanzhou's final cries. My mother wiped away tears in the crowd, tears of relief. In this life, I was neither a military wife nor a nanny. With my mother and Shou Tingsheng, I carved out my own path to survival amidst the waves of the 1980s. As the sun set, Shou Tingsheng and I walked side by side on our way home. Ruiyue, what are your plans for the future? His eyes were full of tenderness. Let's open a branch factory in the provincial capital, and then take my mother to see the sea. I looked up into the distance, where the sunset glowed like fire, illuminating the broad road ahead. I know that life is long, and Zhou Ruiyue's extraordinary journey has only just begun.